Welcome to Marketers Unleashed, the podcast where marketers break free from the noise and dive deep into the raw truths of the marketing world. We're here to go beyond best practices and uncover the bold ideas, untold stories, and hard lessons that shape real marketing success. From dissecting daring campaigns to confronting the challenges keeping us awake at night, we're unleashing honest, unfiltered conversations to inspire, educate, and challenge you to think differently. Get ready to conquer the untamed side of marketing. I'm your host, Kathryn Strachan, and this is Marketers Unleashed, where we're not just talking marketing, we're redefining it. For anyone who doesn't know me yet, I'm Kathryn Strachan, author of Scaling Success, Building Brands That Break Barriers, international keynote speaker, and fractional CMO for cutting-edge brands. I've spent years navigating the ever-changing world of marketing and have seen it all. As your podcast host, I bring my expertise and curiosity to the table, diving deep into honest conversations with industry leaders to uncover the insights, challenges, and bold ideas shaping our industry. Let's get started. Today, I'm really excited to be here with Rowan, but I'm going to let him give you a little bit of an intro into who he is and what he does before we really dive into the nitty-gritty and the depths of all of his expertise.
Hello. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me. Really excited to get stuck into this. So quick intro. So I'm Rowan and I'm one of the partners at 3Search and I lead our executive search team. For the last 15 years, I've specialized in working with marketers, the last 10 years or so, senior marketers, CMOs, CGOs, CCOs, and kind of leadership team, as well as non-execs, helping them secure wonderful new roles in our fabulous client base. So I'm really looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to speak with you too, because I feel like the recruiter story is not one that we hear a lot of. I mean, and you are on the coalface, you know what's going on in this market, probably better than most of us do. So, I mean, tell me a little bit about what you're seeing. Obviously, 2024 was a bit of a hard year, but I mean, what did you see in 2024 and what do you think we can see in 2025?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, January it's like candidate season for us. You have all these people who have spent Christmas contemplating their life and their future and their career. And it takes a few weeks for clients to come back and get their feet under the desk and remind themselves of what their budget and their strategy was for the next year to then push into the recruitment. But we spend a lot of time speaking to candidates. I'm sort of 3 days into my working year and I've spent the majority of the last 3 days speaking to people about their job search. And a lot of them have just kicked it off. Right. And so what I've heard is a kind of recurring theme is quite a lot of trepidation. A lot of people saying, God, it sounds really tough out there. It sounds like there are a lot of candidates out there. You know, we've all seen how many applications there are per vacancy on LinkedIn. How the hell am I going to get through all of that noise? And I guess the first thing to say would be, I think it's a lot better than you would perceive it might be. 2024 was it was a bit of a tale of two halves for us. The first part of the year was tough, it was challenging, but we were in this sort of wait and see cat and mouse game where we work with lots of businesses that are kind of like high growth scale ups that are often beholden to funding, that had cut a lot of their infrastructure in 2023. And then we're in this state where they're like, right, we don't think the universe is going to explode. We think it's going to be all right coming out the other side of this, but we just need some glorious, radiant macroeconomic sign to give us the confidence that it's going to be okay, and then we'll start hiring again. And then on the other side of that dynamic, you had all these investors that were sat there going, we have capital, we need to deploy funds, but the longer we wait, the more assured we can be that the market's going to be in the right place. And also the longer we wait, the better deal we can get as well. So let's just sit here and wait and see what happens. And then the catalyst really was the general election. It was such a foregone conclusion. We don't need to get into politics, obviously, but I think a lot of businesses at that point went, right, change is coming. It's probably going to be positive from a macroeconomic perspective. Let's get on and do this. And so the second half of last year, we just got kind of progressively busier and busier. It was still a little trickier than in previous years because I think there's still a backlog of great candidates who hadn't secured roles yet. But I really feel like the market is improving. I feel like we're past the worst of it. And I think a lot of the noise that people hear is bad news is projected the loudest, right? And it is often the people that are out of work that have got the time to share their experience. And also, as Brits, we're all really self-deprecating. Like, there are a lot of people out there that are going, look at me, I've got 8 interview processes underway. There's all these amazing businesses that want a slice of what I've got to offer. So I think the echo chamber of LinkedIn and marketing WhatsApp groups has a bias for the more negative news. But I can speak to you as a partner of research. We're a 45-person business. We have more data around what's going on in the market from a job flow perspective than probably any other organization from a holistic perspective. And we've seen it sustainably increase. And we're feeling really positive and optimistic for 2025. Now, I don't want to give false hope because there's a lot of people that are feeling really vulnerable at the moment and are still actively hunting for a new role in a really competitive landscape. But I do think that it's better than where the narrative is at. And I think as the market comes to life this year, as budgets get signed off, as bonuses get paid out, and therefore resignations happen, I think there'll be some really positive signs in the next 6 months or so.
Yeah, I mean, and markets swing in roundabouts too. So I mean, we've had the dip in 2023 and 2024, but we all remember the Great Resignation in 2022 when jobs were gotten like hotcakes, and you could not, keep your team if you only paid them like this market average. You had to pay them like above the average. You had to like come up with creative ways to keep them engaged and incentivized. So I mean, markets swing in roundabouts. So I mean, I've got hope that these things will come back around.
And there's a sort of rolling stone gathering moss effect to this as well. You log on to LinkedIn when the market is improving, and your feed is full of people that have secured a new role. And that makes you more open to change and more confident that change will be a good thing for you, rather than where a lot of people have been for the last few years, which is like, I'm just going to get my head down, better the devil you know. And combine that with more vacancies in the market, which means that you're getting approached by more headhunters about opportunities, that makes you feel more confident that you're a valued asset to more organizations. That creates more movement in the market, which creates more resignations, which creates more vacancies. I don't know how buoyant it's going to be this year, and I certainly think 21-22 was a bit of an outlier, right? I don't think we'll see a version of the Great Resignation.
I wanted to go back to something you said earlier, because when you are job hunting or when you're on LinkedIn, you do hear lots of stories about people who have had to spend 18 months, 2 years looking for a new role, or have applied for 500 applications and not gotten any interviews, or you go to apply yourself and you see, 100 people have applied or clicked applied. They now changed it recently, quite interestingly, changed it to click apply, which is different. And I think that's an important difference. But it's interesting that LinkedIn's picking up on that kind of feeling as well. And I mean, I like that you said that bad noise screams the loudest, but I'm sure you actually have insights into like what the reality is. So that's probably not the reality, but kind of, can you tell me a little bit about what the reality is?
LinkedIn is my professional hub, and it is simultaneously the best professional tool and the worst professional tool. LinkedIn, I think with great intention, lowered the barrier of what it is to make an application a few years ago. Like we all remember like the, old clunky systems. You'd log on to them, you'd have to write an essay about why you're a wonderful candidate. It would take you 20, 30, 60 minutes to make an application. You'd get bored halfway through, your children would start screaming, you'd log off and you'd completely forget about it. And with good intention, LinkedIn wanted to reduce that barrier to entry. The problem is it's gone so far the other way now that applying at the click of a button, it's a broken system. As a headhunter, when I have a new vacancy, I do not advertise it on LinkedIn. The reason I don't do that is twofold. Firstly, when I get contacted by businesses who need our support these days, they're not saying, we don't know how to develop a pool of candidates. They're saying, oh, we've got 500 applications here. We either just don't have the time or the capacity or the capability to be able to sift through that and pick out the best 3, 4, 5, 6, however many. But also, if I think about A, managing my work, and B, doing my job in an interesting and enjoyable way, I don't want to review 500 applications, because the reality, unfortunately, is you're not one of 500 applications. You're probably one of 20 relevant applications that sit in a pool of 500 that somebody has to sift through. Unfortunately, a lot of people will say, yes, I've got the determining criteria, when they don't have the determining criteria. So from a productivity perspective, my time as a headhunter is far better spent, rather than sifting through 500 CVs, going, how do I find the 5 people who are excellent? And they might be in my network already, or they might be somebody that Kathryn knows. I call Kathryn and say, hey, I've got this vacancy. You probably know the right person. You know everyone, right? And so if a client's expectation of me is that I go out and find the best person, it shouldn't really matter whether they have applied for the vacancy or not. It shouldn't matter whether they're in the market. My job is to find them and to attract their interests. I guess on the LinkedIn thing, my caution to people is it's very easy as a job hunter to make LinkedIn your home base and to log on every single morning and to sift through, to doom scroll your way through all of these vacancies that you probably saw the day before. And firstly, it's not productive. And secondly, it's soul destroying. And it is hard enough and it is vulnerable enough being a job seeker. And my advice to people that are looking for a new role is to start with, who are the people that I know? Who are the people that I've worked with previously? Like, grab yourself a big mug of coffee, sit down one afternoon and just scroll through all of your mutual connections and just make a list of who are the people that I haven't spoken to for a period of time. And then shoot them a note and say, hey, look, it's been ages, a long time to speak, hope you're keeping really well. I'm at a bit of a professional crossroads. You gave me fantastic advice when we worked together at X business. Can we grab a coffee? Can I pick your brains? I really value your insight. And actually, if you work concentrically outwards from the people that you know and like and rate already, then you've got this distribution network of people that are thinking about you in a positive and productive way. But also, you're just going to have a much more positive experience. I know both you and I know Mark Evans, and he gives great advice, which is like, well, if somebody helps you once, they're more likely to help you just a second time. And I think as a Brit, like we're incredibly self-deprecating, and we don't like to ask people for help. People love to help, and so if you go out at the start of your search and say, I'm going to go and have 100 coffees. Somebody gave me that advice once. Go and have 100 coffees over a 3-month period. A, your search will be inherently more productive, and B, you'll just have a much more interesting, engaging time, and you'll be amazed at what sort of opportunities come out of that, whether it's consulting engagements, opportunities within the business that the person's employed in, opportunities within the business of that person is employed in. If you work from your immediate network, including the people you worked with previously, but also headhunters first and outwards from there, and focus on the quality of relationship, you'll have more success naturally anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to hear you say that, because actually for all of my friends who are on the job market, they spend hours and hours every single day, like, applying for roles. And, I say to them, if you spent time networking and building your personal brand, you're going to find an opportunity much quicker than applying for all these roles. I mean, so much value comes out of your network, and not just from a careers perspective, but from a publication perspective, speaking opportunities, like, so many opportunities come from your network. When I built Coffee House, my old agency, I started with a networking goal of meeting 50 new people every single month. And, I've maintained that for all the years, so 5 years now, that I've been up in my professional career. And almost all the opportunities that I've had in my career or in my life have come via my network in some shape or form. Everybody I've hired has come via my network. They're normally people that I've known or who've interacted with me. And then, you add personal branding on top of that. And personal branding is like how you stay in touch and stay top of mind with everybody in your network. I did a post last week about looking for, an additional fractional opportunity, because one of my clients had unfortunately had budget cuts themselves. And, within a day I had, I probably have 7 new business calls this week just off that post. Not being afraid to, like, put yourself out there, to share with your network, and not just your network of, like, people but also your network at a wider range. So, talking, sharing your expertise, being active on LinkedIn. Even, like, a lot of people are scared to even just put, like, the green banner up. And there's a lot of criticism that, like, if you use a green banner, you're desperate. I mean, what's your take on the green banner as a recruiter? Is it helpful for you, not helpful?
It is helpful to know when somebody is active in market. A part of it depends on the level of seniority, and a part of it depends on the process. If a client comes to me, the way that I work is I'll map the entire market. I'll go and find all of the relevant people. We'll work with them to identify, right, here are the top 100, 150 people that are in this market that we think would be the right sort of people for us to go after, and then we go after them. And I would complete a market map looking at all of the candidates, irrespective of whether they are active in market or passive in market. It is my job. They are paying me a appropriately handsome fee to go and find the best person, irrespective of whether they're active or not. However, if there is an urgency to a search, if it's an interim search, just to be really honest as well, that there are recruiters that will cut corners. And so a very easy way to cut a corner or to exclusively focus on people that are immediately available for an opportunity is to look at that green box. Now, I don't think it's anything to be self-conscious of or mindful of. Firstly, because it's normal and it's a human thing to sometimes be in work and sometimes be out of work. And when you are looking for a new role, I don't think there's anything wrong with broadcasting it, with publishing it. And I think people are appreciative and mindful of the fact that there has been a lot of volatility and movement and redundancy in the market over the last short while. I'm not constantly checking to see whether your green box has changed. I'm not checking to see how long it's been there for. And as a recruiter, I don't have any visibility of when you were open to work from. So on the point of keeping it open for too long, that will be in your head and nobody else's. For me personally, whether somebody's open to work or not and whether they're broadcasted publicly or not doesn't make much of a difference. But I think on the aggregate, showing that you are open to any opportunity is probably a more helpful thing than not.
You talked there about making a market map of like the top 100 candidates that you would put forward for a client. How the hell do you get on that market map?
It's a good question. Depends on the search. So I'll give you an example. So we are about to kick off a search for a direct-to-consumer brand. It's a subscription business focused in the pet space. And I spent 2 hours running a discovery session with them yesterday. We sat down, we talked about their business, we talked about their mission, we talked about their growth journey, we talked about their revenue, and then we sliced and diced with them the determining criteria by which we would identify, qualify, and select candidates. So for example, with this business, an essential criteria was somebody has to work in direct-to-consumer businesses that have a subscription element to them. Another essential criteria, so this is like a growth role. So they need somebody who has got a strong track record in performance marketing with a focus on acquisition, particularly Meta, but also conversion rate optimization. That's the way that they've structured their teams. We need to find those candidates. One of the desirable criteria, not a must-have, but a nice-to-have, is that they have worked in complementary categories. So that could be pets, but it could also be healthcare, it could be wellness, it could be supplementation. And so we would then take that criteria and then bounce it into the market. And recruiters have we pay for access to a even fancier version of LinkedIn. It's called LinkedIn Recruiter. And LinkedIn Recruiter can become your database to a certain extent, right? So I might look at all of the candidates who have got keywords like performance marketing or Meta or conversion rate optimization or CRO or every iteration of that to be able to find the right sort of people, and people who have previously or currently worked in organizations that would be interesting or relevant. You can search on job title, you can search on proximity to location, you can search on how connected you are to that person. I mean, it is an amazing, amazing piece of technology. So what most recruiters will do is they'll take a search, they'll work out from the client what boxes do we need to tick to be able to qualify a suitable candidate, and then they will go and make a list of who are the people that are in my network already, which might be 20 people, it might be 30 people, it might be 50 people, that would either be right for this search or may not necessarily be right for this search, but would probably know interesting people So I'll write down a long list. I'll give Kathryn a call. She would have a good chat about that job. And then supplement that with the candidates that you don't know that are out there in the market. So how do you make yourself available for it? Well, firstly, you've got to optimize your LinkedIn profile in the right way. The skills that you have, make sure that they are put into your profile so that somebody can search on them from a keyword perspective. A lot of recruiters will search based on job titles. So sometimes people will panic and they'll come to me and they'll say, my job title isn't reflective of the sort of roles that I'm looking for. And I would encourage them to just go and speak to their previous employer and say, hey, what's it going to say on my reference? Like, if somebody decides that they want to employ me and then they send a reference letter, is it going to say Kathryn was marketing director for this business? Or is it going to say Kathryn worked for this business? Or what information they're going to include? I'm not asking for anybody to be honest, but there are ways that you can play the system in a slightly more creative way to make sure that you stand out for the relevant opportunities. And then I think the other thing that's really important is get to know people like me and leverage your network and make sure people know that they're available to you, because you and I have got to know each other a bunch over the last few years. Therefore, were I to find a role that would be suitable and interesting and relevant for you, you would be one of the people that would come to my mind, and I'd jot your name down on that list and we'd have a chat about it. But alternatively, more people that know that you are in the market and that like you and that rate you and know that you're generous with your time, the more you are likely to be front of their mind when I call them up and say, hey, who do you know who's awesome? There are definitely some tactical tools and tricks on setting up LinkedIn in the right way. But, a huge amount of this will come through your network as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so recruiters often get a bit of a bad rap, and I often think it's because there's like a misalignment between perhaps what a candidate expects a recruiter to do and what a recruiter will actually do. But I mean, can you tell me maybe where that like misalignment or misconceptions kind of come from? Because obviously, like, all recruiters are not evil.
Being a recruiter is an interesting experience. I always remember, I don't know if I've told you this story before, but so I've got two amazing daughters who are 6 and 4, and we did NCT for our eldest when we first became parents. And those who have done NCT will know that you have this awkward moment at the start of it where you come into a sort of grubby town hall somewhere and everyone makes a cup of tea and says, oh, who are you and what do you do? And I walked into a conversation with these two guys, two new dads who are good friends of mine now, who are having a chat. And the conversation broadly went along the lines of, oh, I'm trying to find a new job at the moment, and I've got this recruiter, and he's an absolute arsehole, and he's only out for himself, and they're all the same, aren't they? They just care about them and their commission check, and, I know that they'd flog their mother if it meant that they'd fill their next role. Anyway, what do you do? I was like, yeah, I'm a recruiter. And he was like, funny. No, really. It's like, yeah, that's really what I do. I understand that people, generally speaking, have a negative perception. And it's a double-edged sword, because I know when I call somebody up and I say, hey, I'm a headhunter, I'd like to have a chat to you, that their shoulders are probably going to drop. But I see that as a wonderful opportunity, because if I can show them that I'm well networked and care and I'm thoughtful and interested in them, then it creates a point of difference very quickly. I've done this 15 years now, and over that course of time I've worked with hundreds of recruiters. And it's like everything, like there are some bad eggs out there, but generally speaking, it's filled with good people who want to do good work and who are spread very, very thinly from a time perspective, and who struggle to manage all of the requests that come into them. I would say on a daily basis, I probably have somewhere between 10 and 15 people get in contact with me. And yeah, it's because I built a big network over a long period of time. But for each person that reaches out and says, hey, Rowan, long time no speak, hope you're keeping well, can we find some time to catch up about your role? If I said yes to every single one of them, I wouldn't be able to actually deliver the work for the people that pay me. And I think you have to understand and appreciate the the relationship between candidate and recruiter is a product-led relationship, in the sense that you as our candidate are our product. And the value exchange is that if we can offer that product, I don't mean to commoditize people, but for the purpose of trying to explain it, if we can offer that product to somebody and create an opportunity, positivity, commerciality, like why wouldn't we? It would be in our interest. I think the reality is just that a lot of recruiters don't know how to manage all of these people, and so they work from a default state of, I don't think I can help, therefore I'm not going to respond, which is the wrong way of doing it. But actually, like, it's a young person's game. I think we all learn expectation management as we develop and progress and mature. I've just been doing it longer than most people, that I know how to have a grown-up conversation and say, hey, great to hear from you. Rest assured, your front of mind. I don't have anything here and now, but I'm in your corner. I think it's really tricky. And I understand and my heart goes out when people talk about having a negative experience working with recruiters. I get that more than anyone, believe me.
Yeah. So from a candidate perspective, I mean, what can candidates do to nurture a better relationship with recruiters, or stay more top of mind, or, make sure that they're more, just having a better relationship with recruiters? What can they do to, maybe make that situation a little bit better?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things that I would suggest. So firstly, if you are looking to connect with a recruiter for the first time, don't send them an email. We get loads of those, and you can't respond to all of them. It would be physically impossible. Find somebody that is a mutual connection. Ask them if they know that recruiter well, and if they know that recruiter well, ask them to make the connection. And the trick there is to try and find the person who is as senior as possible. On the other side of that, and I get a message from a FTSE 100 CMO who says, hey, Rowan, long time no speak. You should connect with Kathryn. She's great and she's looking for a new job. I'm going to make the time for Kathryn, because it's important to me to serve the highest value customers in the best way possible. So there is a trick there in making connectivity. I guess going a step backwards from there is like, how do you find the right recruiters to work with in the first place? Because recruitment is an incredibly disparate, disconnected industry. The vast majority of recruitment businesses are less than 10 people. I think there are 40,000 recruitment businesses in the UK. So everyone will have a different roster of who they should speak to. And you need to have enough recruiters in your back pocket to know that you're being thought of and represented in the right way through enough people, but not so many that you can't manage an interesting human relationship as well. So I would say that number is probably somewhere between 4 and 8 headhunters. And I would simply ask the people that you've connected with and said, hey, I'd love to pick your brains. Who do you work with? Who have you had a positive experience with? Who do you like? Who do you think cares? Who do you think is well connected? And you do that 20 times. Trust me, the same names will keep coming up time and time again, and that'll create your list for you. To the point of like, well, how do you continue connected with them? I think there's a lot of fear from candidates of, if I haven't spoken to this person every couple of months, if I haven't reconnected with them every couple of months, I'm going to be out of sight, out of mind. Most recruiters have systems and processes in place that are sophisticated enough that they will come to you when the right opportunity presents itself. It's in their interest to find the best possible people for the role. They've taken the time to get to know you in the first place, probably because you've come recommended to them. So like, why wouldn't they reach out at the right time? But most recruiters just don't have the capacity to kind of continually stay in touch. So, if a candidate comes to me and says, so should we check in again in a couple of weeks' time? As much as I'd love to, I wouldn't physically have the bandwidth to be able to do that for everybody. So I think it's a really good idea to either shoot them a WhatsApp or shoot them an email saying, hey, just checking in. Here's something that you might find interesting, right? Because have you got any vacancies for me? It then creates a task for me to respond to. I've then got to go, oh, look, I'm really sorry, I don't have anything for you. It makes me feel a bit crap. You're much better to say, thought of you the other day. I was chatting to this person and we were speaking about this thing and it made me think of our previous conversation. Or, hey, I saw this article about Resignation 2.0 being around the corner. Like, you might find this interesting. And the implication within that message is, by the way, I'm still looking for a new job. Let me know if anything comes up. But, in the same way that you would do as a marketer, thinking, what value can I contribute to my target audience? Think of your recruiters, think of your network as your target audience. And the more value that you can put back to it, the more you'll get from it as well. From a frequency perspective, I think doing that every couple of months is a great idea. But if you build a great relationship with them, like take the time to nurture it, right? Like, great candidates that I know who I've worked with over the last decade or so, they drop me a call and want to have a catch up, or they shoot me a note. I'm going to make the time to catch up with them, because for me, it's about the quality of relationships over the quantity of relationships. So I don't think you need to feel shy or overly conscious about reconnecting with people. There's just a better way to do it strategically.
Yeah, I think that's really true. I mean, you connect with people because you want to, and every relationship's a two-way street. So, like, what are they getting out of that engagement with you? Is it learning something new? Or maybe you have, like, a cool event that might be of interest to them, or maybe it's even like a podcast you were on that might have some interesting insights, or a speaking event you did. I mean, why not share that with them? But I mean, I think it's great advice to think about it as if you are marketing yourself to the recruiter. So, I mean, what is it that they want or need, or how can you help them? What might they learn from you, and kind of seeing it as a two-way relationship.
And on that point, I think a lot of candidates will say to me at the end of the call, if you ever need to tap into my network, let me know. And that is appreciated as a sentiment, but I would encourage you to maybe go a little bit further with the people that you really know and trust and like. Like, really think, how can I get in this person's good books? How can I get them to think of me? I have a wonderful relationship with a guy who I offered a role to about 5 years ago, and he didn't accept the role. And by the way, it was the right thing for him to not accept the role. It wasn't the right opportunity. Something better was presented to him, and we shook hands and just went, let's park this. But he did something really, really sweet and unintentionally incredibly clever, which is he sent me a bottle of wine. It was from, I won't name the brands, but like one of these big wine companies, right? With just a note that said, look, I really appreciate your help. Thank you so much. But by the way, this is not a plea for people to fill my wine cabinet. But it was a lovely thing to do. And what was fantastic about it, unintentionally, is he put my mobile number into this company's database so that they would contact me when the wine had landed on my doorstep, which is nice. But I now get a message every 6 weeks or so saying, guy's called GURPS. Hi, GURPS. Good news, we've got this wine in stock that you might find delicious. Get in contact. And because, I'm an idiot, I haven't pressed the stop message on my phone. So every now and again, I just send him a message saying, you're still friends of mine, I'll still give you a contact when anything comes up. So, like, I'm not suggesting that everybody subscribes to their favorite wine distributor in my name and sends me lovely bottles of wine. Wouldn't go amiss. But it's a lovely, it just always keeps him front of mind for me. Completely unintentional.
Yeah. I mean, I think personal branding does that as well, because if you're already on LinkedIn, I mean, recruiters are on LinkedIn all day, every day, and you see somebody's post, then that's going to remind you of them as well. So, I mean, that's one of the benefits of, like, having a personal brand. But there are lots of ways to maybe stay top of mind, but it's thinking about how you do stay top of mind and how you stay in front of your network without, spamming them or, asking too much of them when they're already quite time poor and, time strapped.
Look, I mean, recruiters are some of the most time poor people on the planet. And, we are the account manager, the business developer, the project manager, the marketer, occasionally the bailiff when a client doesn't pay their fee, right? We have a million plates to spin, and people say job hunting is a full-time job. Try doing it on behalf of thousands of people at the same time. And I think just recognizing that no response doesn't mean that you're shunned or they're completely disinterested in you, but that they don't quite have the right opportunity at the right time. I don't think there's malicious intent in that. I think there's a better way of doing it. And we as a business are trying to get better at being as kind as we can in our responses when we're not able to help somebody. I don't take it personally. That firm, that headhunter will get in contact with you when the right opportunity presents itself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think not to take something personally is probably one of the best lessons in business, hands down, because a lot of things aren't personal, but we all feel too personal about most things. And I think nothing's more sensitive than your job because it's your income and it's what provides for your family and for your life. So, nothing
Of
more.
course.
More
And it's an incredibly vulnerable position to be in. We're past the worst of it now, but I remember working with a candidate halfway through 2023 and saying, oh, look, had a really nice conversation. Be nice to meet you for a coffee sometime. I'm in London these days. Let me know when you can come in. And the guy was like, look, I'd love to meet you for a coffee, but I'm broke. Can't afford the train ticket. I've got mouths to feed at home. I hope you understand. Oh my God, of course I understand. And what a terrifying position to be in. It is not lost on me that every candidate that I speak to without a role has a finite amount of money in a pot, and they don't know when that pot is going to be supplemented, and they don't know when it's going to run out, and they've probably got some mouths to feed at home. It's like, that's scary. I think it's so important for us to remain mindful of that as an industry, both headhunters but also hiring managers. It's really easy when you're in a role, out of sight, out of mind, you're busy, which is the reason that you need to recruit in the first place. It's really easy to forget there's a human being on the other end of this, but if you can treat people with compassion, it goes a really long way.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly important. It's a very vulnerable place to be in, and you want to make sure that, people are treated nicely, but you always want to treat people nicely, I think. So before we close today, I just want to ask you one final question. What advice would you have for anybody who's currently looking for a role and, finds themselves in that really vulnerable place that we just talked about?
I give 3 pieces of advice. I'm going to cheat. I give 3 pieces of advice to anyone who's looking for a new role, irrespective of how senior they are, irrespective of their discipline. The first one we've talked about already, have 100 coffees. The second one I would say would be open-minded. Explore different opportunities. There will be some vacancies out there, and you'll look at the job description and you go, that's me. This is my role. It's perfect for me. And then you will interview for it and you go, oh my God, I don't want to work for that bunch. But there will also be roles that will positively surprise you. It might just be a business that writes a terrible job description, or it might be that there's a bunch of stuff that you learn when you speak to them or get a sense of their culture. And so you've got this wonderful opportunity to explore, and you will get out as much as you put into the search. So taking the time to be open-minded and to look at lots of different opportunities is a really, really valuable exercise. And it leaves you informed at the other end of the process because you want to feel confident you've made the right decision. The final piece I give is be patient. It's very easy to correlate open-mindedness with reducing your expectations. But the reality is the decision you make around picking the right business and picking the right role will progress your career further than the work that you do within that job. I have clients and they go, find me someone from Airbnb or Meta or Zapier or wherever it might be. And it's like they're buying the brand. So I'm not saying pick brands, but like pick businesses where there's an exciting journey that you can win in, and there's work for you to do that's really interesting there, and it will have a huge impact. It's really interesting philosophy around this as well. Candidates have a positivity bias, clients have a negativity bias. And what I mean by that is like candidates look for reasons that jobs are right for them. If you're in the market, you might get some red flags, you might get some warning signals, and it's very easy to block them out and look for a reason that a job would be great for you. Clients are the opposite. So they have a negativity bias. They will say, look, I had a great conversation with Rowan. He can clearly do the job, but I do have this concern. I do have this worry. And our job as headhunters is to sort of bridge the gap between the two and come to a place of objectivity, right? If I think about the people who've made it to the very, very top of the game and the people who just don't quite get there, it's not that they're harder working, it's not that they're more conscientious, it's not that they've got more experience, it's not that they're better leaders, it's just that they've picked winners. And a part of that is dumb luck, but actually really listening to your internal tuning fork, taking the time to get it right, maybe doing some consulting work to keep the wolf from the door while you wait for the right opportunity to come along, not diving into the first thing that's presented to you. It's all very well and good if a business wants you, but you've got to want them as well. And if you're not staying awake at night going, God, I love that role, then don't take it. If you come at it from that perspective, you will find a great new position.
I think that is really awesome advice, and I think that everybody listening has got some really great insights today. I know I certainly have. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
That's a wrap for this episode of Marketers Unleashed. Thank you for tuning in and diving deep with us into the unleashed world of marketing. We hope you're leaving with fresh insights, new ideas, and maybe even a few aha moments to fuel your next big move. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new episode. And hey, we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a review or connect with us on LinkedIn to share your thoughts and join in the conversation. Until next time, keep thinking bold, challenging the norms, and unleashing your inner marketer. After all, what's the worst that'll happen? I'm your host, Kathryn Strachan, over and out.